13-2. Those are the impossible odds facing two American fighter pilots high above the Philippine island of Luzon. In the vast, unforgiving theater of the Pacific War, where air superiority often dictated the fate of countless lives on the ground, such a mismatch typically meant one thing: certain annihilation. But on this morning, January 11, 1945, a solitary reconnaissance pilot is about to rewrite the rules of engagement, turning a routine photographic mission into one of the most astonishing aerial victories of the war. How does one man, in an aircraft designed for stealth, not combat, defy such overwhelming numerical superiority? The answer lies not just in skill, but in a relentless, almost reckless, determination to confront the enemy, no matter the cost. The year is 1945. The war in the Pacific rages with brutal intensity. American forces, under General Douglas MacArthur, are pushing relentlessly through the Philippines, striving to liberate the islands from entrenched Japanese control. On January 9, 1945, the U.S. Sixth Army executes a massive amphibious landing at Lingayen Gulf on the western coast of Luzon, the largest island in the Philippine archipelago. This landing is a critical step in the Allied advance. While the ground forces face minimal resistance on the beaches, having learned from previous engagements, the Japanese commander, General Tomoyuki Yamashita, has strategically withdrawn his nearly 230,000 soldiers inland, preparing for a protracted defense from mountainous strongholds. The Allied fleet, however, endures ferocious kamikaze attacks, a stark reminder of Japan's desperate and deadly resolve. Amidst this colossal campaign, operating from the recently secured island of Mindoro, is Captain William Arthur Shomo, a pilot with the 82nd Tactical Reconnaissance Squadron, part of the 71st Reconnaissance Group, 5th Air Force. Born on May 30, 1918, in Jeannette, Pennsylvania, William Shomo's path to the cockpit was anything but conventional. Before the war, between 1937 and 1940, he attended the Cincinnati College of Embalming and the Pittsburgh School of Embalming, working briefly as a mortician. He enlisted in the Aviation Cadet Program of the United States Army Air Forces on August 18, 1941. This unusual background earned him the nickname, the Flying Undertaker, a moniker he embraced, even naming his aircraft, Snooks, after his former profession. William Shomo is no ordinary pilot. He is a photo reconnaissance specialist, his primary mission to fly deep into enemy territory, capture vital intelligence through photographs, and return unscathed. His aircraft, an F-6D Mustang, is a modified version of the formidable P-51 fighter, equipped with cameras instead of additional weaponry. Its design prioritizes altitude, stealth, and range, not direct combat. For William Shomo, however, avoid combat at all costs is merely a suggestion. He frequently pushes the limits, flying lower and faster than regulations permit, gathering crucial images of hidden airfields, supply lines, and military installations. By 1944, he has completed over 200 such daring missions across the South Pacific, earning him the affectionate, if slightly exasperated, nickname, Crazy Bill, among his squadron mates. He is a man driven by an insatiable curiosity and an almost defiant courage, always seeking to provide the most precise intelligence to the advancing ground forces. The challenges facing William Shomo and his squadron are immense, extending far beyond the immediate threat of Japanese aircraft. The very nature of their reconnaissance work is fraught with peril. They operate in single flights or pairs, often hundreds of miles behind enemy lines, deep within Japanese-controlled airspace. Unlike fighter pilots whose primary role is engagement, reconnaissance pilots are trained to evade, to observe, and to survive to deliver their intelligence. Their F-6D Mustangs, while fast and long-ranged, carry a lighter armament payload compared to their fighter counterparts, a trade-off for the bulky camera equipment and extended fuel tanks necessary for their missions. This inherent vulnerability creates a constant, gnawing tension for every reconnaissance pilot. Furthermore, the command structure itself presents an obstacle. There is a prevailing sentiment, a quiet skepticism, that reconnaissance aircraft should not actively seek combat. Their value lies in information gathering, not in dogfighting. Any engagement, especially one against superior numbers, risks the loss of irreplaceable intelligence, not to mention highly trained personnel and valuable aircraft. This institutional resistance means that pilots like William Shomo, who possess an aggressive streak, must often balance their innate desire to fight with the strategic imperative of their mission. His previous audacious flights, while yielding valuable intelligence, have also earned him a reputation that sometimes borders on insubordination, a fine line to walk in the rigid military hierarchy. The enemy itself poses a formidable and evolving threat. While Japanese air power has been significantly degraded by late 1944 and early 1945, particularly after the Battle of Leyte, pockets of resistance remain potent, especially over Luzon. Japanese pilots, though often less experienced than their earlier war counterparts, are flying with desperate zeal, many prepared to die in kamikaze attacks against Allied shipping. Their remaining fighter aircraft, such as the Kawasaki Ki-61, Tony, and Nakajima Ki-44, Tojo, are nimble and well-armed, capable of posing a serious threat to any American aircraft, particularly one on a reconnaissance mission. Japanese airfields on Luzon, though under constant Allied bombardment, remain operational, allowing for sudden, localized counterattacks. The physical conditions of the Pacific theater add another layer of difficulty. The vast distances, unpredictable tropical weather, and the sheer isolation of flights over enemy territory mean that mechanical failures or battle damage can quickly become a death sentence. Rescue is often impossible. Every mission is a gamble against not just the enemy, but against the elements and the limitations of their machines. No one truly believed that a reconnaissance pilot, in a modified Mustang, could dramatically alter the course of an aerial engagement against such overwhelming odds. They were about to be proven catastrophically wrong. The morning of January 11, 1945, dawns over Luzon, the air heavy with the humidity of the tropics. Captain William Shomo, commanding officer of the 82nd Tactical Reconnaissance Squadron, prepares for another armed photographic and strafing mission. His objective: the Japanese airfields at Apari and Lawag, located in the northern reaches of Luzon. These airfields are crucial for Japanese operations, and intelligence on their activity is paramount for the ongoing Allied invasion. William Shomo climbs into the cockpit of his F-6D Mustang, Snooks 5, a silver bird scarred from countless previous encounters. Alongside him is his wingman, Lieutenant Paul Lipscomb, also flying an F-6D. Their mission is clear: photograph, observe, and, if necessary, strafe ground targets, but primarily to gather intelligence. Combat with enemy aircraft is to be avoided if at all possible. This is not a fighter patrol. The two Mustangs lift off from their Mindoro airstrip, heading north. The flight is routine for the first hour, a steady drone of engines slicing through the clear morning sky. They maintain an altitude that allows for optimal reconnaissance, scanning the terrain below and the skies around them. The vastness of the Pacific theater often means long periods of uneventful flight, punctuated by moments of intense, sudden danger. At approximately 9:30 a.m., as they are en route to their objectives, a startling sight appears. William Shomo observes a formation of enemy aircraft flying south, directly towards them, at an altitude of about 2,500 feet, 760 meters. His heart rate quickens. This is no small patrol. The Japanese formation consists of one twin-engine Mitsubishi G4M, Betty, bomber, a crucial target for any Allied pilot, protected by a formidable escort of 12 fighters. 11 of these are Kawasaki Ki-61, Tonys, sleek, agile fighters known for their speed and armament. The 12th is a Nakajima Ki-44, Tojo, another potent interceptor. The odds are immediately and overwhelmingly clear: 13 Japanese aircraft against 2 American reconnaissance planes. Conventional doctrine screams for evasion, for disengagement, to report the sighting and retreat. William Shomo, however, is not a conventional pilot. His mind processes the situation with lightning speed. A bomber, protected by a dozen fighters, represents a significant threat to Allied shipping or ground forces. This is an opportunity, not a deterrent. Without hesitation, William Shomo makes a decision that will define his legacy. He transmits a terse command to Lieutenant Lipscomb: attack. The two F-6D Mustangs, designed for photography, suddenly transform into instruments of war. William Shomo executes a swift Immelman turn, a precise aerial maneuver that allows him to reverse course and gain altitude, positioning himself directly behind the enemy formation. Lipscomb follows, mirroring his leader's aggressive move. The Japanese pilots, possibly mistaking the F-6Ds for friendly Kawasaki Ki-61 Tonys, due to their similar profiles or simply not expecting an attack from such a small, isolated force, do not immediately react. This momentary confusion provides the critical element of surprise. William Shomo closes the distance rapidly, his hands firm on the controls. He targets the leading aircraft of the third element of fighters. He is so close, less than 40 yards, 37 meters, from the Japanese plane, when he opens fire. His machine guns spit tracers, tearing into the Kawasaki Ki-61 Tony. The enemy fighter shudders violently, then explodes in midair, a fiery blossom against the blue sky. This sudden, decisive strike shatters the enemy's complacency. The Japanese formation erupts into chaos, their pilots scrambling to react to the unexpected assault. William Shomo does not pause. He immediately banks hard, attacking the second element of fighters from the left side of their formation. Another burst of fire, precisely aimed, finds its mark. The targeted Tony erupts in flames, spiraling down towards the Philippine jungle below. The remaining Japanese fighters, now fully aware of the threat, attempt to form a counterattack. They maneuver to bring their guns to bear on the two American planes. But William Shomo is already one step ahead. He deftly shifts his position, moving to the other side of the enemy formation. He spots a third Tony attempting to engage. His guns roar again, and the fighter explodes, disintegrating in the air. High above Luzon, the Japanese formation is plunged into sudden, disorienting chaos. The lead bomber, a Mitsubishi G4M Betty, carries a small, highly experienced crew. Their mission critical: to deliver vital supplies or personnel to isolated Japanese garrisons further south on Luzon. The 12 escorting fighters, a mix of Kawasaki Ki-61 Tonys and a single Nakajima Ki-44 Tojo, are from a depleted but still determined air unit, likely operating from one of the northern Luzon airfields. Their orders are explicit: protect the bomber at all costs. The pilots are veterans, but even veterans can be caught off guard. When the first Tony explodes without warning, a jolt of disbelief courses through the Japanese cockpits. Kogeki ka? Are we under attack? One pilot radios, his voice sharp with surprise. They had been flying a defensive patrol, scanning for larger American formations, not expecting an assault from a mere pair of aircraft. The speed and aggression of the American Mustangs are unexpected. There is a moment of confusion as they try to ascertain the source of the attack, their eyes sweeping the sky for enemy squadrons. The American planes, with their single tail and sleek profiles, might have initially been misidentified or simply underestimated. Orders are shouted over the radio, urging the fighters to regroup, to protect the bomber, but the American pilot is already tearing through their ranks, striking with brutal efficiency. The formation, designed for mutual protection, begins to unravel under the relentless, focused assault. The Betty crew, their bombers slow and vulnerable, brace for the inevitable, knowing their escort is struggling to contain the lightning-fast attacks. They believed their numbers offered safety, but this lone American pilot seems entirely unconcerned with such arithmetic. William Shomo, having dispatched 3 fighters, now turns his attention to the primary target, the Mitsubishi G4M Betty bomber. It is a large, twin-engine aircraft, slower and less maneuverable than its fighter escorts, but still capable of absorbing significant damage. He dives below the bomber, positioning himself for an attack on its vulnerable underside. His guns open fire, sending a torrent of bullets into the Betty's belly. Fuel lines rupture, engines catch fire, and the bomber begins to trail smoke and flames. It plummets, crashing and burning into the dense jungle below. In less than 3 minutes, William Shomo has destroyed 4 enemy aircraft, 3 fighters and a bomber. The battle is far from over. As he pulls up from his attack on the bomber, a 5th Kawasaki Ki-61, Tony, appears directly in front of him, guns blazing, attempting a head-on pass. William Shomo does not flinch. He holds his course, returning fire with lethal precision. The Tony is ripped apart by his bullets, stalling and tumbling out of the sky. If you had been in Captain Shomo's cockpit, facing 13 enemy aircraft after having just destroyed 5, with the battle still raging and your primary mission being reconnaissance, would you have continued the attack, or would you have disengaged? Tell me in the comments. The air is thick with the smell of aviation fuel and spent gunpowder. The remaining Japanese fighters, now reduced in number and thoroughly demoralized, continue their desperate attempts to engage. William Shomo, with an almost supernatural calm, presses his attack. He dives upon the first element of the remaining fighters, singling out the lead plane. Another burst, another explosion. The Japanese fighter goes down in flames. With 6 enemy aircraft confirmed destroyed by his own hand, William Shomo spots another, Tony, attempting to flee, diving rapidly towards the cover of the clouds at approximately 300 feet, 91 meters. He pursues relentlessly, closing the distance. His initial burst of fire catches the retreating fighter, and it too crashes in flames. In a staggering display of individual skill and audacious courage, William Shomo has, in under 6 minutes, shot down 7 enemy aircraft, 6 Kawasaki Ki-61, Tonys, and 1 Mitsubishi G4M, Betty, bomber. This feat alone would be unparalleled in the Southwest Pacific area. But William Shomo is not alone. Throughout this furious engagement, Lieutenant Paul Lipscomb, his wingman, has fought with equal ferocity and skill. While Shomo focused his attacks, Lipscomb engaged other Japanese fighters, preventing them from overwhelming his leader. In a crucial contribution to the battle, Lieutenant Lipscomb successfully shoots down 3 additional Japanese fighters. Together, in an aerial ballet of violence and precision, the 2 American pilots have accounted for 10 enemy aircraft. The remaining 3 Japanese fighters, broken and scattered, disengage from the hopeless fight, fleeing into a nearby cloud bank and disappearing from sight. The skies, moments ago a maelstrom of combat, suddenly fall silent, save for the hum of the 2 American Mustangs. The immediate aftermath of the engagement is a mixture of adrenaline and disbelief. William Shomo and Paul Lipscomb conduct a quick visual check of each other's aircraft. Miraculously, despite the intense combat, their F-6D Mustangs have sustained only minor damage. Their fuel, however, is a concern. The prolonged combat, involving high-G maneuvers and sustained firing, has consumed more fuel than a typical reconnaissance flight. They are still deep within enemy territory, and the journey back to Mindoro is long. The return flight is a tense affair. They fly a circuitous route, avoiding known Japanese anti-aircraft positions and potential patrol routes. The silence in their cockpits is profound, broken only by the crackle of their radios as they periodically check in with their base. They know they have achieved something extraordinary, but the full weight of their accomplishment will only be realized upon their return. Back at their Mindoro airstrip, the ground crews and fellow pilots gather, their faces etched with anxiety. Reconnaissance missions are always dangerous, and a prolonged radio silence after a reported enemy contact is never a good sign. When William Shomo and Paul Lipscomb finally appear on the horizon, their silver Mustangs glinting in the afternoon sun, a collective sigh of relief sweeps through the base. As they taxi in, the pilots are met with a throng of eager faces. Their debriefing begins almost immediately. William Shomo, with his characteristic calm, recounts the details of the engagement, meticulously describing each kill, each maneuver. Paul Lipscomb corroborates the account, adding his own crucial observations. The intelligence officers listen in stunned silence as the numbers are tallied: 7 enemy aircraft for William Shomo, 3 for Lieutenant Lipscomb. A total of 10 Japanese planes destroyed by 2 reconnaissance pilots against 13. The news spreads like wildfire through the squadron, then through the group, and up the chain of command. Initial reactions range from awe to incredulity. Such a lopsided victory, especially by reconnaissance pilots, is almost unheard of. The mission had been armed photographic and strafing, not a fighter sweep. William Shomo had not just completed his mission, he had transformed it into a devastating blow against Japanese airpower. The strategic implications are significant. The destruction of a Betty bomber and 9 escorting fighters represents a tangible reduction in Japan's dwindling air assets in the Philippines. It also sends a clear message to the remaining Japanese forces that Allied air superiority is not just a theoretical concept, but a brutal reality, even when confronted by numerical odds. The intelligence gathered from Shomo's photographic equipment, though overshadowed by the aerial victory, also proves invaluable for future ground operations. Consider the Japanese pilots in that formation. They were outnumbered the Americans by more than 6 to 1. What does it tell you about the American pilot that he chose to attack anyway? And what might the Japanese have thought about such a relentless, seemingly suicidal, assault? Tell me in the comments. The days following the January 11th engagement are a blur of reports, commendations, and the quiet awe of his peers. William Shomo's name begins to circulate among the higher echelons of the 5th Air Force and beyond. He continues to fly missions, maintaining his aggressive approach to reconnaissance, but the memory of that single, decisive battle lingers. He has, in one swift action, become an ace in one day, a rare distinction in the annals of aerial combat. The battle for Luzon continues to intensify on the ground. The U.S. 6th Army pushes inland from Lingayen Gulf, encountering stiffening Japanese resistance in the mountains. The need for accurate and timely intelligence remains critical. William Shomo and his 82nd Tactical Reconnaissance Squadron play a vital role in this ongoing struggle, their F-6D Mustangs providing the eyes for the ground forces, mapping enemy positions and identifying targets for artillery and airstrikes. The fighting for Manila, the capital city, proves to be particularly brutal, with Japanese naval forces fighting relentlessly. By March 1945, General MacArthur declares Manila liberated, though fierce fighting continues in the mountains of northern Luzon against Yamashita's main force. The air war over the Philippines, while still dangerous, sees a steady decline in organized Japanese aerial opposition, partly due to the relentless attacks by Allied air forces, and partly due to individual acts of heroism like William Shomo's. If you were a young, inexperienced pilot assigned to William Shomo's squadron after hearing of his actions, how would it affect your approach to future missions? Would it inspire you to take greater risks, or would it instill a sense of caution against impossible odds? Tell me in the comments. The sky above northern Luzon is a canvas of scattered cumulus clouds, offering both concealment and fleeting shadows on the morning of January 11, 1945. Captain William Shomo, at the controls of Snooks 5, AP-51 F-6D Mustang, leads Lieutenant Paul Lipscomb in a 2-ship flight. Their mission is a routine, albeit dangerous, armed photographic reconnaissance of Japanese airfields at Apari and Lawag. They fly at a modest altitude, the roar of their Merlin engines a familiar comfort in the vast emptiness of the Pacific sky. Suddenly, Shomo's eyes, trained by hundreds of hours over enemy territory, catch a movement. Not a flicker, but a distinct formation emerging from the haze to the south, flying in the opposite direction. He narrows his gaze. It's a large group. One twin-engine bomber, unmistakable by its silhouette. A Mitsubishi G4M, Betty. And surrounding it, a formidable screen of 12 fighters. 11 Kawasaki Ki-61, Tonys, agile and deadly, and one Nakajima Ki-44, Tojo, a high-performance interceptor. 13 enemy aircraft, against his 2 reconnaissance planes. The situation is clear, stark, and utterly against every tactical principle for a reconnaissance mission. The F-6D Mustang is fast, but it is not a dedicated dogfighter in the same way a standard P-51 is. It carries cameras, not the full complement of guns or extra ammunition of a pure interceptor. Yet, the sight of the bomber, a strategic asset, ignites a different kind of calculation in Shomo's mind. This is an opportunity to strike a blow that intelligence alone cannot achieve. Lipscomb, attack. Shomo's voice crackles over the radio, calm and resolute. There is no hesitation from his wingman. The 2 Mustangs, initially flying north, execute a synchronized Immelmann turn, a swift, vertical maneuver that reverses their direction and puts them on the tail of the unsuspecting Japanese formation. The element of surprise is absolute. The Japanese pilots, perhaps lulled by the vastness of the sky or misidentifying the approaching aircraft, do not react immediately. Shomo selects his first target, a Tony fighter, part of the 3rd element. He closes the distance with astonishing speed, to less than 40 yards, 37 meters. The range is point blank, almost suicidal. His thumbs depress the firing buttons. 6.50 caliber machine guns erupt in a thunderous roar, a stream of glowing tracers converging on the Japanese fighter. The Tony is instantly engulfed in a fireball, disintegrating in a violent explosion. The silence that follows the explosion is momentary, filled only by the roar of Shomo's engine. The Japanese formation is now in disarray, pilots frantically breaking formation, attempting to locate the source of the attack. Shomo does not give them time to recover. He banks sharply to the left, targeting another Tony from the 2nd element. Another burst. The fighter bursts into flames, trailing black smoke as it plunges earthward. The remaining Japanese fighters, now fully alert, begin to maneuver, attempt to form a defensive circle to bring their guns to bear. They're trying to counterattack. Shomo, a blur of silver against the sky, moves with preternatural speed. He shifts his attack vector, sweeping around to the other side of the fractured formation. A third Tony attempts to turn into him, guns flashing. Shomo's aim is precise, his burst ripping through the fuselage. The fighter explodes, a violent flash of light, and falls away. 3 fighters down, but the Betty bomber, the prize target, is still flying. Shomo dives, positioning himself directly beneath the large, vulnerable aircraft. He opens fire, raking the bomber's belly with a sustained burst. The Betty shudders, its engine sputtering, smoke pouring from its fuselage. A section of its wing tears away. It loses control, pitching violently before crashing and burning in the jungle below. 4 enemy aircraft destroyed in rapid succession. The air is a maelstrom of twisting metal and desperate maneuvers. As Shomo pulls up from his attack on the bomber, a 5th Tony fighter barrels towards him, guns blazing in a head-on pass. It is a desperate, dangerous gamble. Shomo holds his course, unwavering, his own guns spitting fire. The 2 aircraft hurtle towards each other. At the last possible second, the Tony wavers, its fuselage absorbing Shomo's concentrated fire. It stalls, its pilot losing control, and plunges vertically out of the sky. Still, the battle rages. Shomo turns, his eyes scanning for the next target. He spots the lead plane of the first remaining element of fighters. He closes, fires, and watches as the Tony disintegrates. 6 kills. The chaos is immense, but Shomo's focus is absolute. He sees one last Tony attempting to disengage, diving low, seeking the protective cover of the cloud layer at an altitude of approximately 300 feet, 91 meters. Shomo, relentless, gives chase. His Mustang screams after it, gaining rapidly. He fires a final, short burst. The Tony takes the hits, a final puff of smoke, and crashes in flames. In an astonishing 6 minutes, Captain William Shomo has personally destroyed 7 enemy aircraft, 6 fighters and 1 bomber. Simultaneously, Lieutenant Paul Lipscomb, his wingman, has fought his own desperate battle, accounting for 3 more enemy fighters. The remaining 3 Japanese fighters, overwhelmed and terrified, scatter into the clouds, fleeing the relentless American assault. The skies, moments ago alive with the fury of 13 enemy aircraft, are now empty. The 2 F-6D Mustangs, alone once more, turn for home. The incredible aerial victory achieved by Captain William Shomo and Lieutenant Paul Lipscomb on January 11, 1945, reverberates far beyond the immediate skies over Luzon. William Shomo's destruction of 7 enemy aircraft in a single mission, particularly while flying a reconnaissance variant of the P-51 Mustang, stands as an unparalleled achievement in the Southwest Pacific area. This singular act of gallantry and intrepidity, against such overwhelming odds, earns him the nation's highest military decoration, the Medal of Honor. He is formally awarded the Medal of Honor, and by April 1, 1945, he is promoted to the rank of Major. The impact of William Shomo's actions extends beyond his personal accolades. It serves as a profound morale booster for Allied forces engaged in the grueling Battle of Luzon, demonstrating that even against numerically superior forces, American skill and aggression can prevail. For the Japanese, it underscores the rapid deterioration of their air power and the increasing dominance of Allied air forces. The loss of a bomber and 9 escorting fighters, though a small fraction of their overall strength, represents a significant blow to their dwindling resources and their ability to conduct critical operations. William Shomo continued his distinguished military career after World War II, transferring to the newly formed U.S. Air Force. He would eventually retire in 1968 with the rank of lieutenant colonel. His post-war life included leadership roles in various squadrons and groups, showcasing his continued dedication to military aviation. His story, though often overshadowed by larger battles and more widely publicized figures, remains a testament to individual courage and the unexpected heroism that emerges from the crucible of war. He flew over 200 combat missions in World War II, yet in total, he only saw 14 enemy aircraft from his cockpit, destroying 8 of them. 7 of those 8 aerial victories occurred in that single, astonishing 6-minute engagement over Luzon. This remarkable efficiency highlights not just his skill, but the rare opportunities for direct combat that reconnaissance pilots faced. William Arthur Shomo passed away on June 25, 1990, and is buried in St. Clair Cemetery in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. His legacy endures as a symbol of the audacious spirit of American pilots in the Pacific, a man who, despite a mission to avoid combat, seized a fleeting moment to deliver a decisive blow against a numerically superior foe. He was a reconnaissance pilot who became an ace in a day, proving that sometimes the most unexpected individuals can achieve the most extraordinary feats. And perhaps the most unexpected fact about William Shomo's incredible day is that the F-6D Mustang he flew, Snooks 5, the aircraft in which he won his Medal of Honor, was later lost while being flown by another pilot. If this story moved you, if you think these men deserve to be remembered, leave one word in the comments: unparalleled. Subscribe for a new forgotten story every week.